Jasmin, thank you so much for taking the time out to be on Mom Life Unfiltered by the Cape. We are so excited to have you here. This podcast just means so much to us because this is a way for us to get closer to our audience and really cultivate community. My name is Maliha Ahmad, and Jasmin is a content creator from Calgary, Alberta, and mother of 3.
And I'm Karina Emery, originally from Germany and live in Cape Cod on the Cape. So, Jasmin, we're super excited to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to connect in this way.
Absolutely. So, tell me, how are you feeling today? Like, what has motherhood thrown your way today? How are you feeling?
I feel like we're interviewing at such a cool time right now. So my husband is away on his annual fishing trip. It is something that, before we even met, he's been doing these 2-week fishing excursions. And so that is really what fills his cup. And every single year he does that. So this is the time where he's on. So I've been on my own in that way with the 3 kids. Right now they're at school, and I feel like before he left, I had the opportunity to go on a trip, a little girls' trip of my own. And then in just a couple of days, I have another trip. So I'm kind of bookended on either side. So I feel like this has been a really nice time with my kids, honestly, because I was able to relax before, and I know that I'm going away after just to fill my cup on both ends. So it's actually been really nice, and I've been appreciating I wouldn't have otherwise appreciated.
Yeah.
Before.
Do you have that? Like when my husband leaves, I'm always like, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? Am I going to what's going to happen? And then, but once he's gone, it's like, I mean, Ben, don't take this personally.
That was easier, right? Is it easier? Sometimes.
But it's like, once you get in the groove, it's like, this is actually not as bad, no. So I totally hear you.
Yeah. So we're having a great time. Now, obviously, looking forward to coming back, but we're having a good time.
And is there anything
so you're basically,
how old are your kids?
I have a 3-year-old daughter, a 6-year-old daughter, and an 8-year-old son.
Is there any curveball that your kids threw at you today or this week? I'm just something like yesterday I came into the bathroom and my daughter tried all of my makeup and all of my she was like, "Mom, look, smell. I made my own face mask." And then so she put all of my expensive
It sounds like she's already,
and her face
doing a whole little beauty routine.
Red and black. And the whole bathroom was the whole bathroom floor was with powder and mascara. And I was like, oh my God. And she's 8. I feel like she should already been out of that experimental phase, but it's something like that, Is there anything that your kids threw at you at this week?
So many curveballs, but I would say this week particularly has been positive. Really, I'm surprised by how much they step up when my husband is away. My son is the one, I don't even have to tell him to make his bed anymore. Oftentimes he'll go downstairs, cut up some fruit for everybody. He tries whatever and
wow,
in his capacity to help out. And then my 6-year-old daughter is so helpful with my 3-year-old. They share a bedroom. She helps her get dressed. So they've thrown me very positive curveballs this week.
That's awesome. Maybe we should have another call in 2 weeks when your husband is back.
When he comes back, I feel and it's the same when I leave, I guess. I feel like when we're both here, they could be okay, we could be kids again and we could just chill and relax. And then when one of us goes away, they feel I see that mom needs help or dad needs help, and I'm gonna step in.
That's very sweet.
Yeah,
that's super sweet.
curveballs have been good curveballs. Yeah.
It seems like you're providing them with a lot of mindfulness, like they're in tune. They're kind of like, okay, dad's gone, mom's gone, let's step up.
Yeah.
Let's, be a little bit more independent, take on more responsibility, which is, I think, a mother's dream,
Yeah.
essentially. So it's really beautiful that they do that. They step right into it. You don't even tell them anything. They just kind of tap into it. I
That's
think that says a lot about you as a mom. But also, like, there was something that I guess also speaks to their personalities individually. And there was something that I saw on your page that really, really stood out to me. You said something along the lines of, you know your child's personality before they're even born. And I was like, wow. Could
Wow.
you tell us about that? Like, that is so interesting. I think that's really powerful and just really, like, it says a lot about how intuitive you are too as a
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, I felt them. I felt their personalities immediately. And I was wondering, am I basing this off of, I have two older brothers and I come from a subset of three as well. Am I basing it off of that? And I've been very aware of, the thoughts that I had about them, my intuition, and how they actually are. My job as a parent, I've learned, is to just nurture the personalities that they were born with. But I did have an inkling as to what they would be like when they were in utero. I knew that the day my son was born, we were driving out to the mountains to do some maternity photos. And I turned to my husband and he said, I don't know if this is a boy or a girl. I just know that this baby is like quite serious, has a great sense of humor, and is like a very old soul, he's very it turned out to be a boy, but this baby is like very in tune, very emotionally like aware. But I would say first and foremost, like very serious. And that's exactly him 8 years later. And I had feelings about my girls as well. Nothing about their sexes at all, but just the way that they are personality wise. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I had a feeling I knew what I'm going to have, but that's like next level.
Right? I love that.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. One of the things that, when I reflect on, like, my mother, one of the things she told me was, she's like, when you were in me, you were just calm, really calm. And she was like, and then when I had you, I literally was just confused because you weren't waking up for feedings. You were just sleeping. She was like, I took you to the doctor to try to see if everything was okay. Cause she's like, my child's actually sleeping until 8 a.m. My child's not waking up at the wee hours. And she's like, is my baby okay? Because what's going on with her? And it just, we really do come here with a personality already. I do think that society shapes personality, but it's like, I already came here kind of like, I love my sleep.
Yeah.
And I'm chill. I'm calm, So it's really great that you can tap into that for your children.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're all so different and so beautiful, and to nurture whoever they are is that is my role as their mom.
I love that. So what does motherhood mean to you?
It means being the nurturer, the supporter, and also I'm constantly learning. I know that today I'm not going to be the same mom as I will be next year. It's opened me up so much. It means not so much the dictator in the household, but I feel like I'm growing alongside with my kids.
Mm.
and being beside them. Obviously, safety is there, but first and foremost, like it's just the support. That's what motherhood means to me. It's not so much shaping them, molding them, but supporting them. Yeah.
Evolving. That's what I kind of like heard,
Mhm.
like just all of you evolving kind of like together.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mhm.
knowing that it's okay for parents to evolve too, right?
I
I
mean,
feel like,
I feel
Right.
like you don't have a choice. It's,
yeah.
you just have to evolve.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's like, I think it's confusing for the kids too if you get stuck. At least that's what if I get stuck in my ways, then it's just not working out.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I like what you said because it's just like you're allowing your children to just be themselves and bloom.
Mhm.
And I like that you kind of like took the dictatorship out of it and you're kind of like, okay, I'm not necessarily this authority figure, but you're guiding them and supporting them, but you're not preventing them from being who they truly are, from them like really being colorful, growing and exploring. You know what I mean? Because I know that
Mhm.
some parents are kind of just like, I want my child to be a doctor. I want my child to be, XYZ. And so
Yeah.
therefore, I'm going to start grooming my child right away
Mhm.
to be this very specific thing. And sometimes that child is like, I don't want to do that. I'm not even interested in that. You know what I mean? So I like that you put support in there as the key thing. Like you're supporting them on their journey of growth and evolving. I
Yeah.
love that.
Absolutely. There's no point in trying to shape them and almost creating a battle between you and your child. If that's if you decide that this is what they're going to be when they grow up. No, like for example, I know nothing about tennis. Like I have taken a couple lessons since he started, but I know nothing about tennis. Never in my life I thought I would be taking him to his lessons. When he has them, taking him, signing him up for tournaments. I am just his number one cheerleader. He found a sport that he liked. I know nothing about it. I'm like, let's go. It brings him so much joy. And I am there as a cheerleader. I would have never picked this sport because I know nothing about it. But he found it, and I love that. I love that for him, and I think that's our process.
Yeah.
We let the kids find what they love and be there.
Support them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful.
That's really beautiful. And with you being a content creator and constantly kind of like thinking about things to create for your audience and being online, how do you find the balance or just like, how do you find a way to just not take on the pressure of being a perfect mom, considering that you're like exposed to what it looks like to be a perfect mom online?
yeah. I think that is how I started.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's how a lot of content creators start, really. And then you realize after time that, like, this was actually never your idea. Sure, you're putting the content out there, but like, is it your idea? Is this your style?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the
Mm-hmm.
way you actually raise a child? And then I mean, it took me a number of years to realize that it's just an idea that you're striving for and comparing against, and that is honestly just a waste of time, but a great learning opportunity. I'm glad that I went through that. And now it's just the perfect mom is I mean, you're only competing against yourself, really. You're like, did I do
Mm-hmm.
better than I did yesterday? Did I like the way I felt when I said this to my child? Yes, no. How can I be better? And you can only be better than you were the previous day. And I think that it took me some really not so great feelings, like especially through social media, talking with other moms, being accused of not being a good mom or being told I was a good mom when
Wow.
I was not a good mom, you know? And so I'm like, this isn't real. This is just an
Mm-hmm.
idea that was never even mine to begin with, that I am trying to measure up to. And therefore, I can't base my success on this idea up in the cloud. So I can only measure myself against the person who I was yesterday as their mom. Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to look at it. I like that you're just kind of like, I only want to be better than who I was, you know, yesterday. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because that's all we can do. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like society puts a lot of pressure on moms to do it all, achieve it
Mm-hmm.
all, like look a specific way. Your body has to be like this after pregnancy. And like, you should be doing XYZ with your children. Your children should be in all these extracurricular activities. It's just like, first
For
of
what?
all, moms need a, right. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to carry. And that's a lot of pressure to
Mm-hmm.
like produce, perform, and appear like you have it all together constantly. And I know that, like, we as humans, it's not allowing a mom to be human. Like, we don't have it all together all the time. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Especially when you're raising little ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
With you kind of like being an entrepreneur, and a mom, how do you handle any mom guilt? Or it might not even be around, being an entrepreneur. It could just be around like traveling,
Yeah.
or right. So how do you flow through that, or do
Um,
you?
I do, but I think that again comes with practice and trial and error, figuring out what works for you. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, I had 2 back-to-back trips that did not involve the kids. And then now I'm with them, and then I leave on a trip in just a couple of days, again without the kids. And I had a moment where I was like, whoa, are they going to be okay? Is this all right? And I started questioning. And thankfully, I have a very supportive partner. And he is very on board with, what is it that you need to pursue? I felt really like tethered for a long time. And now as the opportunities come, if it's a girls trip, if it's a work trip, it's really exciting for me. And he really is excited for me when I'm excited. And so I think as long as we keep it in our bubble, with the support just being with our family, rather than opening it up to extended family, to social media, to anyone outside of our family, I think that's where the mom guilt really comes through. Oh, you're leaving your kids
Right.
again. You do that. Oh, like we never did that in my day, and so on and so forth. I think as long as we keep it to our family and don't allow for those unsolicited opinions to penetrate, the mom guilt doesn't it's not there, because I've blocked that out, because our family unit is the only one being affected, and therefore the only ones that matter,
I envy you. Really, it sounds like you only feel the mom guilt kind of like pressure from the outside, not so much like coming from yourself.
Yeah. I think that it's well deserved, honestly.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know that too. Like, I know that I deserve certain things, but like I told Maliha yesterday, it's just like, it's the littlest things, like my daughter looks at me, in the morning, Mom, can you please pick me up from school today? Dad picks me up every day, like with her puppy eyes. And I'm like, I want to say yes so badly, but that's where like the mom guilt creeps in.
Okay.
So, and there's nothing I can, like, it's just there, and, my husband tells me he's also very supportive, and wants me to do things. And he tells me 1,000 times, she's going to be okay. And I know she's going to be okay. Like, I know it, but that just creeps up on me. So I
it's
really
different
envy.
when it comes from the kids, isn't it? Yeah.
What's that?
It's different when that comes from the kids.
Yeah. And I mean, they know what buttons to push, you know, they just know.
Yeah.
So
They're so smart.
Yeah, children have a way of being teachers as well. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
sure.
I think that that's something that, like, a lot of us, even when I've been a teacher, I've learned so much from children that it makes no sense. I've literally been like, wow, who's actually getting the most from this? Because I'm receiving so much from these children. I taught 4th and 5th grade, and I was just like, wow, they're teaching me things about my own inner child. They're teaching me things about ways to express. They're teaching me, how to, like, live freely. They ask very interesting questions that I wouldn't think of asking. They don't have a filter. They're just living in the moment. And I'm like, wow, so when did all of that start to dissipate in me? As an adult, you start to think about all the ways in which society and just like how you have to operate as a human in the world. And you're like, okay, I can't do this. I can't say this because this won't be, politically correct. So I have to just kind of tone it down. You know what I mean? So it's really great to just be able to really learn from children. What's one thing that you would want, your children to know about you beyond being a mother, beyond being their mom? Because, children are like, this is mom. And they just know mom is mom.
Did she exist before she had us?
You know what? Honestly, I tell them so much. I share a lot with them. Their favorite stories that on the way to school, they always ask, can we have a flight attendant story? Because they know I used to be a flight attendant. Can you tell me when you were, and my brothers also live in Calgary, and we see each other a lot more. We sometimes bring up our childhood. And so they hear a lot of stories about who I was before becoming their mom. And I'm very open, age appropriately open with them when it comes to, this is what I'm going through right now, be it hard, be it, happy. We talk a lot. And so I feel like they know me quite well. I do keep work kind of separate from them. And I no longer involve them in social media for safety reasons. I used to. I started as a mom blogger and didn't realize the safety concerns associated with that. And it wasn't until recently I really scaled that back, just out of worry and out of just awareness, of how they might be feeling in the future, looking back, seeing their faces. So I do keep work pretty separate from them. And if you ask them, mom doesn't work. Like, they don't think I work. And if I am working in front of them, it's usually something fun, or like I'm, maybe taking a little video if I bring them to an event or something. And to them, I don't work. And they see me just, I don't know, I try and be very, very present with them. Because I think that's almost actually out of mom guilt, because I feel like I'm kind of making up for how I was when I first started my channel. Very kid centric. And it was all about that, because it was that, I feel like that was my focus. And I think I'm trying to make up for that, really. This is how I'm having a realization now.
Did they ever, I don't know when you stopped, sharing your kids on social media, but was your son ever aware that he was on there? And did he ever mention or say anything to you regarding this? Or
he's, I mean, as a baby, no, I wasn't aware.
Right.
And I have guilt around that, because I'm like, how was I able to offer consent on his behalf? And my daughter as well. I would say they haven't said anything directly. We sometimes go on work trips, like when we do some travel blogs, and
Mhm.
our last one was Quebec City, for example. And I was like, you guys don't have to be in any photos if you don't want to. That's totally fine. You just go and enjoy. They will sometimes say like, oh, I wish this was just like an actual vacation.
Yeah.
Like, why do you have to, my husband's a photographer. Well, oh, Papa, why do you have to bring your cameras everywhere? Right. And so sometimes they get exhausted because we're kind of
Working.
bringing stuff along with them. It's, so they'll, especially my son will say stuff like that. And so, yeah, I do try to keep it very, very separate. And it's a work in progress, but I think, yeah, there's a song called The Finger Family. I don't know if you've heard it. And
Please share.
Sing it.
Please share the
We wanna
song.
hear it.
It's like, Mama Finger, where are you? And then it goes like, and it says like what they do. So it's like the song, it's like, I don't even know, Coco Melon, maybe. And it's like, dad plays guitar, mom works out, and whatever their roles are. And so my kids make this up and they're like, Papa takes photos. Mama cleans the house, or Mama goes to Pilates, or Mama does, but like Mom, like they literally think I don't work. And I kind of like that right now. I don't need to prove to them that I'm working right now. I feel like, I want to keep it separate. And maybe in the future, we'll talk about how we can, achieve that balance. But right now I'm happy with them not knowing that I work while they're in school. Yeah.
I like that. I like that you're kind of shielding them from or creating some sort of protection around social media. Like, how do you moderate their screen time and their social media usage living in such a intense digital age?
Okay. Oh my gosh. I wish I had the book around me. There's a book called Anxious Generation. Have you heard of it?
Oh, I'm going to write that down.
Who is it by? Yeah.
Do we already, Maliha, we already have podcast notes? Like every podcast I listen to, check out our podcast notes. Like,
we will have.
We need podcast notes.
So this book is called The Anxious Generation. It's a phenomenal book, and it talks about how we have bred anxiety into our kids, mostly because of social media. And so,
do you get anxious reading it?
Yes. However, I feel like I read it at a really good time because my kids, they don't have phones. And so I feel like social media is the big one that it talks about. When it comes to screen time, we have a very, like everybody knows the rule. There's no screens whatsoever Monday through Thursday. Friday night, we have a family movie. And then Saturday, Sunday, if it works with activities, maybe we watch a movie at night, maybe they watch a show in the morning, but it's not structured. And they know when they've had enough.
Yeah.
They're not super strict on the weekends, but they also don't go overboard, honestly. Yeah, but they don't.
That.
And my son, he claims he's seen some phones at school. He's like, everyone has a phone. Which is not true. But he's like, when can I get a phone? And I said, when you're 21, which I know he's probably going to get one sooner. But I was like, right now it's 21, but like, ask me later.
Yeah.
I'm still discovering things, right? And I'll share some of the research in the book with him. Yeah, no, they're not getting phones for a long time. And it's quite ironic that I'm the one on social media for work. And I'm like,
well, I think if you raise your kids with these boundaries, and I think it's important that you share some facts with your kids that you read in that book too, so that they actually, like, they might be harsh sometimes, but if they're age appropriate, and I think they should realize, because, you know, like, there are no rules. There's not like no, no one that tells you, hey, you can have a phone when you're 16, or there are no regulations around that, which I think is a huge mistake. Because it is like a drug, and it should be treated like one.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you said that your kids kind of like know when they have enough and when to turn it off. So that shows me that you kind of like raise them with these boundaries around screens.
Yeah. We talk a lot about as well, how things feel in your body. We talk a lot about, you know, when it comes to food, hydration, the clothes that you wear, not how you look, not how, you know, what other people are doing, how does it feel? And so I think when it comes to indulgences, be it ice cream or TV or whatever it is, they are gaining the awareness, and they probably have more than I had, like, you know, in early 20s, that's for sure, with how things feel in their bodies. And they go, you know, I'll just flick it off and do something else that feels better for them.
And so I think we forgot, Malia, in the beginning to introduce Jasmin as a breathwork teacher, which I found so interesting, or find so interesting. Do you do that with your kids when they have like, when they throw a tantrum or something? Do you try to,
not in the moment. I find that only because, you know, in the moment, if somebody said that to me and I'm like really feeling my emotions and somebody was like, take a breath, I'd be like,
yeah,
no, I'm like just not ready to receive. And so we talk about it when they're calm. Like my daughter, I should have brought all my books up with me. And my daughter has a beautiful book called the Breath Book. And it's just, she's got it by her bed, and it's got like a number of exercises in there, and they see me doing breath work as well. And they'll join me. They like to also like, I guess mock me in a nice way. You know, my older two like to do that, when they're like playing mom, you know, and, but they see me, it's not something I force on them, but in the moment, I won't say anything to them. I'll encourage what they're feeling first and foremost, and then we can talk about it later.
But I think if they see you do it, that's way more powerful than, you know, you said forcing them. You know, if they see you do the breath work, then they eventually will probably copy you and just do the same. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's so good to lead by example. I just feel like when it comes to motherhood, I just think back about my mom, where she was just like, there's no guidebook to raise you. There was no workbook for me to follow. She's like, I know I've messed you up, Maliha. I've been like, you know what, you have. And I think through the failures and through reflecting and kind of like learning from your failures, that you become a better mom. You know what I mean? Do you have any like failures that come to mind when it comes to motherhood, and how did you cope? How did you move through that?
Oh, I think it was a failure looking back, but at the time I didn't recognize it as one. I think, like you said, parenthood does not come with a handbook. And I think a lot of the time people are like, when I become a parent, I'm gonna be like this, or I'm gonna, it's almost like we think that we're going to receive all of the necessary tools in order to parent, but you don't. And you kind of just have to move through it and learn along the way. And for the first couple of years of becoming a mom, I look back going like, wow, can we swear?
Sure.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Unfiltered.
Mom life unfiltered.
Unfiltered.
I was like, I look at some of the things that I like how I reacted in certain situations. And I was not capable of having any sort of emotional awareness, but definitely no emotional control. And I would kind of blame it on my kids, not to their face, but I would say like, they stress me out. They're this, that's why I'm acting like this. Like I was kind of, it was just like a ball of anxiety and like, my emotions were just, I could not keep them in check because I didn't know how. I had no idea. And so I think back to some, some really big reactions that I had going like, what the hell, Jess? Like, what is that teaching your kids? Right? Like and so I think
Life.
what's that?
It's teaching them life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I think it wasn't like one day I woke up and I'm like, I'm not going to have those emotional reactions anymore. And it wasn't like that. It was like, it happened very gradually. I just knew that I wasn't feeling good. And I was feeling very lost. And I was feeling like, not a good role model. And I was like, I know I can do better. And so I started reading. I started listening to podcasts, and started going on retreats and doing things for myself in that way. I've always been good about like, going to a workout class or, taking care of myself physically, but never emotionally. And so I started doing these things and I realized how little awareness I had of myself, of my emotions. And so I am still learning and I will always be learning and growing. But now having a little bit more awareness, I look back going, holy shit, I would consider that a failure. But in that time I didn't have the tools to rely on. I just thought this is what motherhood is and it's explosive and it's big and frustrating, Yeah.
And you're human, and it sounds like you tried to work on it. Like, for instance, for me, it's the yelling. Like, I'm a very emotional person too, and before I had kids, I was always like, I'm emotional. I'm just very emotional, and it didn't really mean anything to me.
Yeah.
But then after I had kids, I was like, shit, this is actually a problem. Like. And I watched a video yesterday, I think. There was a dad who interviewed his kids. I think he had like 4 or 5 kids. And he asked, what is it that you hate the most that your dad does? And all of them separately in being interviewed said, I hate when dad yells at me. When he's like, I mean, they obviously not all of them knew what emotional means, but they all said, I hate it when dad yells at me. And, I feel like it just happens. It happens. You're human. And as long as you can see that and notice it and try to work on it, I think that's like the best role model a kid can have.
Yeah. Right. And I'm very open with my growth with them. And I think that's something that a lot of us didn't grow up with, like apologies from parents.
Yeah.
Because, seeing your parent, they are who they are. Right. I never thought that. I thought they just were done growing and they're just like this person forever and ever. And then when something didn't feel good, there was never an apology. And so I feel, unfortunately, a lot of people had that experience as well. And I think I'm very open with my growth. And there are days where like I am not my best. And I have no problem apologizing to my kids and really taking ownership. Yeah, I think that's very important.
Yeah, and I think I'm the same way. And I think, sometimes my kids come to me and I'm like so like enraged or stressed or impatient, and they come to me and give me a hug. And then they just say, Mom, I'm just so sorry what I did, and then just everything just like it has such a power.
Yeah.
And if you do that to your kids, like just imagine how they feel like. I think
Right.
it has a huge impact on them if you can genuinely say, I'm sorry, I was being an ass, or
Totally.
Right.
not at my best.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
We'll cut that out.
I think that that's something really powerful in, and I don't know if mothers feel this, but like, where do you have the space to crumble? Do you have to always keep it together in front of your children? Like, the space to
Mhm.
crumble, the space to not have the answers, the space to like be a wreck, the space to like not on a consistent basis, but you know, just the space to unravel in front of your children. Because then, like you were saying, Karina, and some of what you were saying, Jasmine, like, you're human, and it's like, I don't know if that's something that's like promoted or talked about enough in motherhood, where mothers are like, yeah, my child saw me have a breakdown and also witness the breakthrough. Like, do you
Mhm.
have, as mothers, the space for that to even show that? Or do you feel okay showing that to your child or children?
Yeah. I don't pretend in front of them because they're so smart, and they know I'm not being authentic, and they know that I'm just not being myself. And when I am 100% truthful, even though sometimes the truths are really sad or unhappy,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. It hasn't. I feel like having tools like. I mean, now that my kids are in school, I do have some time to go on walks, and my morning routine is very important to me. So I've got space to crumble in breath work, in meditation. I've
Okay.
got, or to pull it together. It just depends on my day.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of really showing emotion in front of my kids, I think, I was very lucky to have a dad who was very, very vulnerable, and he still is, which I think is a
Mm.
great quality, especially from a male.
Yeah.
And so I saw
Mm-hmm.
that in him, emotions I didn't shy away from. And I love him for that. So I'm not afraid to show that in front of my kids. Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
And what do you think you've learned from your children through the course of raising them?
Oh my gosh. I don't
I
think
know it. I know it's that's full. That's a whole loaded question, but like, what
yeah.
comes top of mind?
There's very little resemblance, like if any, to the person who I was before I became a mom. So I've literally, um, I've learned so much, and at the same time, it's not like when I say growth, I kind of think like you're going up and up and up, and you're expanding. But it's that in a sense, but it's also like they have helped me uncover. Like, I feel like I didn't have an identity before I had them.
Mm.
I was
Wow.
shaped by, you know, everyone, like external things and people, and they have helped me remember and uncover and like find my identity again. If you were to ask
Wow.
me when I first had kids, I literally I feel like I couldn't talk for myself. I couldn't
Wow.
express my own opinion, which I think is why that's why becoming a content creator was so alluring. You pretend to be this person with an opinion. I had none. I had no
Mm.
idea who I was. And so I didn't feel like I had firm beliefs or anything. I was very lost. And so I feel like they have helped me in their own ways discover who I am. And it's really important to keep on digging and discovering, because the more I am myself, the more um, permission it gives them to be themselves, especially going into
Mm.
early
That's super
adolescence.
interesting, I think,
Yeah. Hmm.
because I feel like most of the times, at least from what I hear, is like, oh, I was this or that person before I had kids, and then all of a sudden I had them, and then I had no idea, like, who am I?
Yeah.
You have to find
Yeah.
yourself new. Like, you're like a new person overnight. You get a new life overnight. So I think it's super interesting that for you, it was like the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. Like, so your children basically empowered you to find you in a sense.
Yeah.
Let's dig into that a bit more. Like, how do you feel like, I don't know if anything comes to the top of your head, but how do you feel like they helped you find you or find your sense of self more?
I think back to like these emotional outbursts, right? And going like, well, in the moment, I know this is not how I want to raise my kids. And I know that this is going to affect them in a way that is not positive. So how do I change this? And so I think gaining a little bit of self-awareness, going like, oh, wait, like just take a pause, take a breath, like literally find out a little bit more about what is going on. Where is that reaction coming from? And I think, part of it came out of worry, but like, who am I shaping here with my emotional outbursts, and how can I be better? And thinking about their personalities, knowing that I feel like I heard this from moms before I became one. Like, they have their own personalities. They come out, like with their personality. I'm like, whatever. Like, no, they don't. They're shaped by, mom and dad and society. And then when I got pregnant, like I can feel this baby's personality, and knowing that as well, and knowing how powerful it was, I knew that it was my duty to nurture that. And I was like, I can't nurture that if I am not secure in here, and I don't have a foundation. So I think both of those things really allowed me to just do some more work and look inside, and I think that came with a lot of practice and hardship, and it will be a never ending journey.
Wow.
I think that sounds like a beautiful end to.
Yes, it's perfect. I was just about to say that. It's a
never ending journey. Like, once you're a mom, you're always going to be a mom. It's like very powerful.
Thank you so much, Jasmin, for just taking the time out to share your journey with us, be here, be present, and just be unfiltered. And I love it. So thank you. Thank you for supporting our podcast. Thank you for loving the Cape.
It was so wonderful to be here.